You see, life is a grand play, and everyone wears a mask, not just for the world, but for themselves. The greatest illusion is not that others deceive you, but that they deceive themselves first. And so the game goes on. Smiles that hide agendas, words that conceal intentions, friendships that are nothing more than transactions. But if you learn to truly see beyond appearances, beyond... You see, life is a grand play, and everyone wears a mask, not just for the world, but for themselves. The greatest illusion is not that others deceive you, but that they deceive themselves first. And so, the game goes on. Smiles that hide agendas, words that conceal intentions, friendships that are nothing more than transactions. But if you learn to truly see beyond appearances, beyond the carefully constructed roles people play, you begin to notice something remarkable. You begin to see the cracks in the masks, the subtle inconsistencies, the telltale signs that reveal the truth beneath the surface. Most people are not who they pretend to be. They have learned to say the right things, to perform kindness when necessary, to adopt the language of sincerity while lacking its essence. And yet, there is something about them that always feels just slightly off. You can sense it when they speak, how their words seem rehearsed as though they are delivering lines from a script. Their laughter doesn't quite reach their eyes. Their concern feels hollow, like an echo rather than a voice. If you are truly present, you will notice these things. But most people don't. They have been conditioned to take everything at face value, to believe what is said rather than what is shown, to trust the mask rather than the energy beneath it. But here's the secret: energy never lies. A person may smile and speak words of kindness, but if they carry deception within them, you will feel it. Your body will tell you before your mind ever figures it out. A tightness in your stomach, a slight unease, a hesitation you can't quite explain. That is your intuition whispering to you, nudging you to wake up. But too often we ignore these signals. We explain them away. We assume we are imagining things. We tell ourselves to give people the benefit of the doubt, and in doing so, we betray the deeper intelligence within us. A mask can only be worn for so long before it starts to crack. People reveal who they are in the small moments, when they think no one is watching, when they are caught off guard, when they have nothing to gain. Watch how someone treats those they do not need to impress. Observe how they speak of others when those people are not around. Notice if their kindness is consistent or merely selective. A truly genuine person is the same no matter the situation, no matter the company. But a deceptive person adjusts themselves like a chameleon, shifting their colors to match whatever environment benefits them most. To recognize such people is not to become cynical, but to become wise. It is not about rejecting all of humanity, but about sharpening your ability to discern what is real and what is merely an illusion. You do not need to fight such people, nor do you need to expose them. Simply see them as they are and adjust your energy accordingly. The moment you stop playing their game, they lose their hold over you. And so, the question is not whether bad and fake people exist. They always have and they always will. The real question is, will you open your eyes? Will you trust your own inner knowing? Will you allow yourself to see beyond the mask, beyond the illusion, and recognize the truth for what it is? Because once you do, you will never again be deceived. Not because deception doesn't exist, but because you will have learned how to see through it. Words are slippery things. They can be woven into beautiful, intricate patterns, carefully designed to evoke trust, admiration, and even love. But words, in and of themselves, mean nothing if they are not backed by the energy that fuels them. A person can say, "I care about you," but if their energy does not align with that statement, the words are empty. A person can promise loyalty, honesty, and integrity, but if the feeling behind their presence is hollow, those promises are just a performance. We have been trained to focus on what people say, to listen to their explanations, their justifications, their apologies, their flattery. But the truth is never found in words. The truth is in the energy that carries them. You have met these people before. Perhaps they charmed you at first, saying all the right things, knowing exactly how to push the buttons of your heart. They spoke in ways that made you feel special, valued, understood. But something beneath it felt strange, didn't it? A vague discomfort, a feeling that something was just a little bit off, though you couldn't put your finger on it. Maybe you ignored it. Maybe you told yourself that you were overthinking. But your body knew. It always knows. Because energy never lies. It is the quiet force beneath the surface, the unspoken presence behind every interaction. And it will always reveal the truth if you are willing to pay attention. Watch closely, and you will see how often words and energy do not match. You will hear people say they are happy for you, while something in their tone feels laced with resentment. You will hear people promise to be there for you, yet notice how they vanish when you need them the most. You will hear professions of honesty from those whose actions scream deception. These contradictions are everywhere, yet so many fail to notice them because they are too focused on the surface level, the words, the smiles, the gestures. But if you shift your attention away from the words and toward the energy, the truth will become unmistakable. Energy speaks in ways that words never can. It is in the pauses between sentences, in the weight of a glance, in the way someone carries themselves when they think no one is watching. You will notice it in the slight hesitation before someone answers a question, in the forced enthusiasm behind a compliment, in the tension that lingers when a lie is being told. People who lack authenticity cannot help but reveal themselves in these ways. They may be able to control their words, but they cannot control the vibration they emit. And if you learn to attune yourself to that vibration, you will never be fooled again. This is why you must listen to your intuition, that deep inner knowing that has always been there, whispering to you, nudging you, warning you. But too often we silence it. We explain away our gut feelings, convincing ourselves that we are being irrational, paranoid, or unfair. Yet, how many times have you looked back and realized that your intuition was right all along? How many times have you ignored that quiet discomfort, only to later regret it? That is because your intuition speaks the language of energy, not words. It picks up on things long before your conscious mind does. It reads the subtle signals, the unspoken inconsistencies, the truth behind the facade. So, the next time you meet someone, do not be deceived by what they say. Do not rely on words to tell you the truth. Instead, close your eyes for a moment and feel. How does this person make you feel? What is the energy behind their presence? Do you feel calm and at ease? Or do you feel something tight, something unsettled, something that urges you to step back? That feeling is your guide. Trust it. Because while words can be manipulated, energy never lies. You said, expand 600 words long, don't add any headings, ChatGPT said. There is a pattern to manipulation, a rhythm, a predictable sequence of behaviors that, once recognized, becomes impossible to ignore. People who deceive, who take without giving, who use others as stepping stones for their own desires. They are not as clever as they believe. Their tactics may seem subtle at first, their presence disarming, even magnetic, but underneath it all, they follow the same script, and once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. It often begins with charm. Not genuine warmth, but a rehearsed performance of likability. These people know exactly what you want to hear, and they say it with precision. They study you, subtly mirroring your interests, your mannerisms, your language, as if they are reflecting back the best parts of yourself. And for a while it feels good. It feels like a connection, like understanding, like fate. But that is only the bait. Because people who manipulate do not show you their true nature right away. They first build trust, a foundation that makes you feel safe. Then the shift begins. The small, almost imperceptible moments where their kindness is laced with control, where their generosity comes with invisible strings. They begin to test your boundaries, not in obvious ways, but in ways so subtle that you hesitate to call them out. Maybe they make a joke at your expense, and when you react, they tell you that you're too sensitive. Maybe they guilt-trip you for not responding the way they wanted. Maybe they disappear for a while, only to return with a perfect excuse, just enough to make you question your own doubts. This is how they gain leverage. Not through force, but through confusion. And once you are entangled in this web of self-doubt, the cycle deepens. They will alternate between affection and withdrawal, approval and criticism, keeping you in a state of uncertainty. This is not by accident. Manipulative people do not want you to feel secure, because a secure person is difficult to control. Instead, they create a dynamic where you are constantly seeking their validation, trying to regain the warmth they so easily gave in the beginning. It is a carefully crafted illusion, a trap designed to make you feel dependent on their approval, even when it comes at the cost of your own well-being. If you begin to pull away, they will sense it immediately, and that is when they will shift again. Suddenly they are kind, attentive, promising change, doing just enough to keep you from walking away. But notice this: their efforts are always temporary. They do not change. They only adjust their tactics, because they are not interested in true connection, only control. They will say what is necessary to keep you close, but their actions will always betray their real motives. The clearest sign of a manipulative person is how they react when you set boundaries. A healthy person will respect your limits, even if they do not agree with them, but a deceptive person will push against them, find ways around them, make you feel guilty for having them at all. Watch closely in these moments, because they will reveal everything you need to know. If someone truly values you, they will not need to manipulate you into staying. They will not punish you for standing in your truth. So how do you escape this cycle? By seeing it for what it is. By recognizing that manipulation thrives in confusion, and clarity is your greatest weapon. The moment you stop seeking approval from someone who thrives on withholding it, they lose their power over you. The moment you trust your intuition over their explanations, the illusion shatters. You do not need to fight them, expose them, or even explain yourself. You simply need to step back, observe, and choose not to play the game, because once you see the pattern, you are free. You have always known, somewhere deep inside you, in a space beyond logic and words, you have always felt it. That quiet whisper, that subtle nudge, that uneasy feeling in your gut when something was off. But somewhere along the way you were taught to ignore it. You were taught to second-guess yourself, to explain away your instincts, to be reasonable instead of trusting what you felt. Maybe it was society telling you to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to suppress discomfort in favor of keeping the peace. Maybe it was past experiences where you were made to feel like you were overreacting, where others dismissed your concerns and convinced you that you were imagining things. But your intuition has never lied to you. It has always been speaking, even when you weren't listening. It speaks in the form of a sudden hesitation, a tightness in your chest, a strange sense of unease that you can't quite put into words. It is subtle, often drowned out by louder voices, voices of reason, of guilt, of obligation. But it is always there, waiting for you to pay attention. The problem is never that you don't feel it. The problem is that you don't trust it. The world has conditioned you to doubt your own knowing. You have been told that you need proof before you can believe something, that you need evidence before you can trust your instincts. But by the time you gather enough proof, by the time someone has betrayed you enough times to justify walking away, the damage has already been done. What if instead you trusted your first feeling? What if, instead of waiting for undeniable evidence, you allowed yourself to honor the quiet warnings that arise within you? The truth is, every time you ignored your intuition, you paid the price. You stayed in situations that drained you. You trusted people who didn't deserve it. You made excuses for behaviors that were never going to change, and every time, in the end, you looked back and realized you knew. You knew all along, maybe not in a way that you could explain, but in a way that you could feel. That is the power of intuition. It does not shout, it does not argue, it simply knows. Think of how many times you've said, "I had a bad feeling about this," after something went wrong. Think of how many times your body reacted before your mind could rationalize what was happening. That is because your intuition picks up on things long before your conscious mind does. It notices the tiny inconsistencies, the micro-expressions, the subtle shifts in energy that your logical brain dismisses. It is not guessing, it is perceiving at a level you have not been trained to trust. But what happens when you start trusting it? What happens when you stop explaining away the warning signs and start listening to them? You begin to move differently. You no longer need people to prove to you who they are. You feel it. You no longer waste time giving endless chances. You recognize when something is misaligned from the start. You become untouchable to those who thrive on deception because they can no longer manipulate you into doubting yourself. And this is the ultimate freedom. To move through life with clear sight, to trust what you know without needing permission, to recognize when something does not feel right and honor that feeling without guilt. Your intuition is sacred. It is your greatest guide, your sharpest tool, your most unshakable truth. The more you listen, the louder it speaks. The more you trust it, the stronger it becomes. And the moment you choose to stop doubting yourself is the moment you begin to truly see. Every encounter in your life is a teacher, even the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. It is easy to be grateful for the people who love you, who support you, who nourish your soul. But what about the ones who deceive you, the ones who manipulate, take advantage, and betray? Most people see them as mistakes, as misfortunes, as something to regret. But what if they were something more? What if they were placed on your path not to break you, but to awaken you? You see, everything that happens to you is part of your evolution. Nothing is wasted. Not the heartbreak, not the disappointment, not even the moments you wish you could erase. Every person you have ever met has shown you something about yourself. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your patterns, your blind spots. Those who have hurt you have revealed where your boundaries were too weak, where you ignored your intuition, where you placed your trust too easily. And in that realization there is power. Because once you see the lesson, you never make the same mistake again. The people who deceived you showed you how to discern. They sharpened your ability to see through masks, to recognize false kindness, to understand the language of manipulation. The ones who took from you without giving taught you the importance of reciprocity, of protecting your energy, of knowing your worth. The ones who abandoned you revealed where you were relying too much on others for validation, where you needed to become whole within yourself. Every single painful encounter was a mirror, reflecting back to you the places where you still had growing to do. But here's the mistake most people make. They stay stuck in resentment. They focus on the betrayal, the injustice, the unfairness of it all. They replay the past in their minds, wishing they had seen it sooner, wishing they had done things differently. And in doing so, they remain tied to the very experience they wish to escape. But freedom does not come from resentment. It comes from understanding. It comes from realizing that without those painful encounters, you would not be as wise, as strong, as clear as you are today. And so the choice is yours. You can see yourself as a victim of deception, or you can see yourself as a student of life, growing wiser with every lesson. You can carry bitterness in your heart, or you can carry knowledge. You can spend your days regretting, or you can step forward with newfound clarity, knowing that every difficult experience was refining you, shaping you into someone who sees, someone who understands, someone who cannot be deceived so easily again. This is the ultimate lesson. Nothing is ever truly lost. Not time, not love, not trust. Because even when you give these things to the wrong people, you are learning something invaluable in return. You are learning how to recognize what is real. You are learning how to protect what is sacred within you. You are learning how to walk through the world with open eyes, with a heart that is both wise and unafraid. And that is the greatest victory. Not to become hardened, not to close yourself off, not to live in fear of deception, but to move forward with the confidence that you now see clearly. To understand that those who tried to fool you were simply stepping stones on your path to deeper awareness. To look back, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the wisdom they unknowingly gave you, because once you have learned the lesson, they no longer have power over you. You are free. Someone who cannot be deceived so easily again. This is the ultimate lesson. Nothing is ever truly lost. Not time, not love, not trust. Because even when you give these things to the wrong people, you are learning something invaluable in return. You are learning how to recognize what is real. You are learning how to protect what is sacred within you. You are learning how to walk through the world with open eyes, with a heart that is both wise and unafraid. And that is the greatest victory. Not to become hardened, not to close yourself off, not to live in fear of deception, but to move forward with the confidence that you now see clearly. To understand that those who tried to fool you were simply stepping stones on your path to deeper awareness. To look back, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the wisdom they unknowingly gave you. Because once you have learned the lesson, they no longer have power over you. You are free. The world, as we've come to know it, is not as solid as it appears. We imagine our lives to be built from concrete events, locked into place by circumstance, rigid in their unfolding. But what if I told you that everything you've ever called real is only as real as the attention you've granted it? That the life you once dismissed as impossible wasn't barred by any law of the universe, but only by the smallness of belief. Faith, you see, is not merely hope dressed in spiritual garments. It is the profound recognition that reality bends, not to effort, but to expectation. Not to struggle, but to surrender. There's a peculiar dance happening beneath the surface of all things. A cosmic rhythm that responds not to what we say we want, but to what we truly believe we are allowed to receive. And here lies the paradox. Most people spend their lives imprisoned not by walls, but by thoughts. Thoughts that whisper limitations, thoughts that echo the fears of others, thoughts that declare some dreams are too big, too far, too much. But what if you were never meant to bow to those illusions? What if the impossible wasn't impossible at all? Just invisible, waiting patiently behind the veil of your doubt. You were born not to chase after life, but to shape it. To imagine boldly and believe without apology. The door to the miraculous does not swing open for those who simply wish. It responds to those who walk as if the miracle already occurred, as if the mountain has already moved, as if the treasure has already been found. This is the power of true faith, not the kind that pleads for permission, but the kind that knows it's already been given. We tend to think the universe gives us what we want in return for effort, discipline, hard work. But what it truly responds to is alignment, a heart aligned with the truth that it is worthy, a soul aligned with the knowing that it is never alone in its desire. Faith is not a cry into the void. It is a signal, a beacon that draws to you the very things others have told you are impossible. Not because you deserve more, but because you finally remembered what was always yours. There is a version of you in this very moment that already lives the life you long for. That version does not hustle or chase or beg, it simply knows. It knows that time is not an obstacle, money is not the gatekeeper, and approval is not a currency. It knows that the dream placed in your spirit was never a joke or a distraction. It was an invitation into a reality that is already vibrating around you, just waiting for your agreement. An invitation into a reality that is already vibrating around you, just waiting for your agreement. You don't become that version of yourself by forcing the world to change. You become it by letting the illusion fall away. By peeling off the layers of fear, of logic, of societal conditioning. And when you do, when you finally look at your life not as a cage, but as clay, you realize something astonishing. The impossible life you dream of is not only possible, it is inevitable. Because you dared to believe in its existence when no one else could see it. Faith, in its purest form, is not a desperate act. It is a peaceful knowing, a silent affirmation that says, I am not waiting, I am remembering. The life you believed was beyond your reach is not ahead of you. It is within you, quietly pulsing with possibility, whispering, come closer. Every time you align your thoughts with belief instead of fear, every time you speak as if it's already done, every time you trust the invisible more than the visible, you are not creating something new, you are finally letting it in. So the question is not whether the life you want exists. It does. The question is, are you willing to let go of the version of yourself that said it didn't? Are you brave enough to believe with the kind of faith that rearranges reality? Because when you are, the impossible will no longer feel like a miracle. It will feel like home. We've been trained, almost hypnotized, to see life as something that simply happens to us. A solid chain of events, stitched together by facts, logic, and external forces beyond our control. We move through it like passengers on a train, watching the scenery pass by, assuming the destination was fixed long before we boarded. Yet this belief, so widely accepted, is precisely what keeps so many in quiet desperation. The truth, hidden in plain sight, is that reality is not fixed. It is not a cold, objective framework that exists outside of you. It is fluid, malleable, and shaped by the lens through which you observe it. Your belief doesn't merely color your experience. It creates the structure upon which it unfolds. Every human being walks through the world with a unique filter, and that filter is belief. Two people can live through the same set of circumstances and emerge with entirely different realities. Why? Because the world is not seen as it is seen as we are. This isn't metaphorical poetry. This is the fundamental nature of perception. When you believe the world is against you, life provides you with evidence to support that belief, not because life is cruel, but because life is responsive. And when you believe the impossible is not only possible, but inevitable, that too becomes your experience, not because you willed it by brute force, but because you stepped into harmony with it. We've been misled to think that effort alone shapes reality. That if we work harder, sacrifice more, or push longer, life will eventually yield to us. But countless people push every day and remain stuck in the same cycle, haunted by the same fears, living beneath the same invisible ceiling. Why? Because they've never changed what they fundamentally believe to be true. The machinery of effort is powerless without the current of belief to activate it. You can't build a castle in your life if your foundation is a blueprint of doubt. Effort is physical. But belief is spiritual, and the spiritual is what gives rise to the physical. When your belief says this is impossible, your efforts may mimic movement, but they will always be undermined by the silent voice within that whispers, "You're not enough. You'll never make it. This is too far for someone like you." But when you shift that belief, when you allow the thought to enter that says, "I am already aligned with what I seek," you begin to notice a strange unfolding. Paths that were hidden begin to emerge. People show up. Opportunities form. Coincidences align with eerie precision. It's not because the world suddenly changed. It's because you did. This isn't magic. It's not superstition. It's the principle that the observer influences what is observed. When you look at the world through the lens of lack, the world echoes it back to you. But when you begin to look at your life through the lens of wholeness and faith, faith not just in something external, but in your rightful place within the divine order, you tune yourself to a frequency where what once seemed impossible starts to look familiar. Not because you forced it into existence, but because it was always there, waiting for your recognition. Belief operates like a mirror. Whatever you project inwardly is what you see reflected outwardly. The reason so many stay stuck isn't because they don't have talent or resources. It's because they never updated the mirror. They keep asking life to change while maintaining the same inner dialogue, the same expectations, the same quiet resignation. But faith is different. Faith is not passive. It is not a weak hope or an emotional crutch. Faith is radical. It is defiant in the face of logic. It is the quiet force that declares, even if I cannot see it, I know it is mine. And that declaration doesn't beg for validation. It creates the very experience it speaks of. You've likely heard people say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But that's not how the deeper levels of life work. In truth, you'll see it after you believe it. Because belief is the cause, not the consequence. You can test this in your own life. Begin to act as though what you once thought impossible is already on its way. Don't pretend, believe. Speak with the tone of someone who already knows. Walk as if the outcome is assured. And you will notice the shift. Your environment, your emotions, even your sense of time begins to bend around the new belief. It's as though life is relieved that you finally stopped fighting it, and now it can begin to work with you, and still the world will try to pull you back. It will offer evidence to tempt you into doubt. But understand this. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. It is the absence of commitment to your own vision. The moment you waver, the moment you begin to question whether you're being realistic, you reintroduce the very confusion that delayed you in the first place. This is why faith is not soft. It is not delicate. It requires inner fire. It is a choice you make every morning, not once in a lifetime. And as you hold that belief, even when your eyes see nothing, even when your hands touch nothing, even when your world reflects nothing, that is when faith becomes a creative force. That is when the impossible starts to tremble beneath the weight of your knowing. Because in that moment, you are not merely hoping for life to change, you are authoring a new chapter with every breath, every thought, and every silent affirmation you allow to grow within you. There is a version of you that already lives the life you once believed was unreachable. A version that doesn't strain under the weight of anxiety, doesn't question their worth, It doesn't beg the world to offer proof before they choose to feel secure. That version of you doesn't live in some distant future that needs to be chased. It exists in the now, hidden behind layers of fear, programming, and disbelief. The life you seek isn't waiting to be created. It's waiting to be claimed. And the path to it is not paved with effort or performance. It is paved with belief, and belief alone. You must begin to understand that time is not what you think it is. We've been conditioned to believe that life unfolds linearly, that change is slow, that transformation is earned through the passage of time and the accumulation of struggle. But the truth is much stranger and far more beautiful. Time is not a straight line. It is a canvas on which countless versions of you already exist, each living in alignment with a different level of belief. When your belief shifts, your reality follows, not after years of hard labor, but instantly, energetically, and sometimes so subtly that it feels like a gentle unfolding rather than a dramatic event. This is not about fantasy. This is not about deluding yourself into thinking that just wanting something is enough. It's about tuning your identity to the frequency of the life you desire. You cannot receive what you are not tuned to recognize. You could walk past the doorway to your dream life every single day and never know it was there, simply because your inner dialogue told you that it was, for someone else, someone better, someone more prepared. But when you begin to see yourself as the one who already holds it, the one who is already living it, something incredible happens. You begin to notice opportunities you once missed. You begin to speak with a different tone. You no longer ask whether you're worthy. You simply know. And that knowing alters the current of your life. It's important to realize that this version of you, the one living the life you desire, does not need to be constructed from scratch. You're not here to build that person brick by brick. You are here to remember that you already are them. It's a process of removal, not addition. Letting go of false identities, outdated narratives, and inherited fears. Every lie you stop telling yourself brings you closer. Every fear you confront with love dissolves the barrier between who you think you are and who you truly are. So how do you step into that version? You begin by shifting your inner posture. No longer asking the world for permission to feel abundance, to feel success, to feel love. You give yourself the permission. You act not from the identity of someone trying to get there, but from the one who is already there. Speak as if it's already yours. Walk as if the ground beneath you knows your direction. Think as if your prayers have already been answered. No more are you that, please, already. And most importantly, feel the emotions of already having arrived. There is power in emotional rehearsal. Your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what is imagined and what is experienced. If you can feel the joy, the relief, the peace of the life you once thought was impossible, your nervous system begins to acclimate to it. Your energy begins to attract people, events, and patterns that match that vibration. You become like a lighthouse, broadcasting a signal that says, "This is who I am. This is my life," and the world responds accordingly. You'll notice something interesting when you begin to operate from this place. The people around you may not understand. They may question why you're acting differently, why you're so calm, so confident, even though nothing on the outside has changed yet. But it has changed. It's already shifting, Because the truest shift is internal. And once the internal changes, the external has no choice but to follow. So that's how the structure of reality works. What you see is always a delayed echo of what you believe. The universe is far more obedient than we give it credit for. It listens closely, not to what we say, but to the silent convictions beneath our words. When you believe that the life you desire is distant, the universe mirrors that back to you. Postponement, detours, resistance, but when you believe that you are already in harmony with that life, life bends to match that alignment. It's not about arrogance or pretending, it's about certainty. A certainty that does not scream or demand, but simply is. Let yourself become familiar with the energy of the impossible. Let it become your default setting. Spend time with it. Meditate with it. Walk with it. Speak to it like a companion. Because it's not a fantasy, it's a frequency. And when you match it, you don't need to fight your way to it. You simply arrive. You don't climb a ladder to your dream life. You dissolve the illusion that it was ever far away. You must be willing to stop waiting. Waiting is a signal to your subconscious that something is missing, that something is lacking. But when you act as though it's already present, you step into the field where reality begins to conform to your belief. It's a sacred paradox. The fastest way to get there is to stop needing to get there at all, to live as though you've arrived, and watch how life rearranges itself to catch up with your belief. The version of you who already has what you want is not arrogant, not desperate, not in a hurry. That version is peaceful, magnetic, clear. That version does not worry about how or when, because they already dwell in the now, where it exists. And that now is not somewhere in the future. It is here, within you, asking only that you trust it enough to step into it fully. The door is not locked. The path is not hidden. It's been waiting for you to see it, not with your eyes, but with your faith. We live in a world that glorifies the chase. We're taught that if we want something, we must go after it with all our might. Work harder, run faster, sacrifice more. We're told that desire must always be coupled with pursuit and that nothing worthwhile comes without struggle. And so we chase. We chase success, love, peace, recognition, thinking that the more desperate our pursuit, the more serious and deserving we are. But what if the very act of chasing is what keeps everything just out of reach? What if the universe is not moved by your intensity, but by your alignment? What if the things you long for don't come closer when you run faster, but when you finally stop running and start receiving? There is a quiet wisdom that only reveals itself when you stop acting like everything must be earned through exhaustion. This wisdom whispers that the universe doesn't respond to begging. It responds to alignment, to vibrational agreement, to the frequency of your being, not the volume of your pleading. Alignment is not about action. It's about resonance. You don't attract what you want by screaming louder or by proving your worth through suffering. You attract what you are in tune with. What you believe is already yours. What you embody without effort, all limited by the conditions of place. Consider how radio works. You can't hear a frequency you're not tuned into, no matter how desperately you want to hear it. It's not the desire that changes the station. It's the shift in frequency. That's how the universe operates. You can want love, money, peace, or purpose with every fiber of your being, but if you're not in alignment with them, if your inner state contradicts the thing you seek, they remain echoes in the distance. It's not because you're unworthy. It's not because the universe is withholding. It's because you haven't yet tuned your identity to receive. Alignment means that your thoughts, emotions, and actions are all speaking the same language, that you're no longer wishing for a better life while rehearsing worst-case scenarios in your mind, that you're not affirming abundance with your words while harboring scarcity in your heart. It means you've moved beyond pretending. You know. You've stopped asking whether it's coming. You've stopped looking for signs of progress. Because when you're truly aligned, you don't chase the thing. You carry the energy of already having it. It's easy to mistake alignment for passivity. People think that letting go of the chase means giving up. But alignment is not the absence of movement. It's movement without resistance. It's not that you do nothing, but that you stop doing things from a place of fear, desperation, or unworthiness. You still take steps. You still speak, act, build, create, but now it comes from a grounded inner certainty, not a frantic need to convince life to be kind to you. And that shift changes everything. When you're aligned, your energy does the heavy lifting. People feel it. Doors open without you forcing them. Opportunities appear that don't match the logic of your situation. Because alignment bypasses logic. It bypasses statistics, odds, and conditions. It places you in a flow state where you no longer push against reality. You shape it by your presence. Not through force, but through congruence. Through being so deeply in tune with what you desire that the world around you begins to conform to your vibration. The greatest deception is that life rewards suffering, that struggle is a badge of honor, and that the more pain you endure, the more worthy you become. But struggle, when rooted in fear, only begets more struggle. It's a signal to the universe that you don't yet believe you are supported, that you're still trying to earn what has already been offered freely to the version of you who dares to align. This doesn't mean challenges won't arise, but when they do, your aligned self doesn't panic. It responds with grace, because you know who you are. You know what is yours. When you live from alignment, you stop micromanaging the how. You release your grip on timing. You're no longer fixated on controlling the process because you understand that the process is always responding to your energy. So you become more conscious of what you're putting out, not in terms of behavior, but in terms of belief. You become more interested in how you feel than in what you do. Because how you feel is the compass. It tells you whether you're in alignment or in resistance, whether you're radiating trust or desperation. And here's the beauty of it. Alignment is available now, in this moment. You don't have to wait until your circumstances change to feel peace. You don't have to wait for evidence to feel certainty. The feeling is the cause, not the result. When you learn to feel secure before the manifestation, that security becomes the magnet. When you feel joy before the outcome, that joy becomes the key that unlocks the outcome. You don't wait for the world to confirm your belief. You let your belief rewrite the world. Many are walking through life asking, why is nothing changing? Why does it still feel hard? Why does it still feel so far away? And the answer, more often than not, is this: you're still operating from a place of misalignment. You're trying to manifest from lack. You're asking for abundance while carrying the energy of desperation. You're praying for love while believing you're unlovable. You're seeking peace while entertaining chaos in your mind. And so life listens to what you're really radiating. Not your words, not your effort, but your frequency. To align is to surrender, not in defeat, but in trust. Trust that what you desire is already moving toward you. The moment you stop blocking it with doubt, fear, and frantic energy. Trust that you are already worthy of the life you long for. Trust that your role is not to push, but to prepare. To become the version of yourself that already lives it. And in doing so, you stop asking the universe to change, and you allow the universe to match you exactly where you stand. There comes a moment in every journey when the striving begins to feel hollow, when the endless cycles of effort and anxiety only leave you more entangled in the very struggle you are trying to escape. You push harder, trying to change the world around you, believing that if you just do more, sacrifice more, learn more, then maybe, just maybe, something will finally shift. But the truth, so simple yet so often missed, is that the most powerful transformation doesn't happen when you try to do more. It happens when you release what's keeping you chained. And often that chain isn't in your circumstances, it's in your doubt. Doubt is a quiet force. It doesn't always shout or scream. It whispers. It lingers beneath the surface, hidden behind logic and rationality. It disguises itself as being realistic, practical, or cautious. And yet it's the very substance that keeps you small. It doesn't just block doors, it convinces you they never existed in the first place. You walk past miracles every day, too blinded by skepticism to recognize them. You sit in the presence of opportunity, but your inner voice says, that's not for you, that you might ever ask them to go. It could hardly blame you. Letting go of doubt is not about becoming naive. It's not about pretending life is perfect or ignoring problems. It's about seeing through the illusion that fear has built. Doubt is an echo of the past. It's the residue of old disappointments, of times when things didn't work out, of moments when you believed and were met with silence. But just because something happened once doesn't mean it will repeat. Just because one door didn't open doesn't mean all others are locked. Life is not a broken record. It's a living, breathing canvas. It responds not to your wounds, but to your willingness to move beyond them. The challenge is that doubt feels safe. It offers the illusion of control. If you don't believe too much, you can't be disappointed. If you don't hope too deeply, you won't be hurt. But that safety comes at a cost. You numb yourself to joy. You close yourself off from the very experiences that would heal you. You trade freedom for familiarity, and you remain in places you've outgrown. Jobs, relationships, patterns, because they're comfortable. But comfort is not always kind. Sometimes, comfort is the enemy of your destiny. Faith, on the other hand, asks more of you. It asks you to stand in the unknown and still smile. It asks you to trust the unseen, to believe in what hasn't yet materialized, to speak as though the answer has already been given. And that kind of faith is impossible to carry if you're still holding on to doubt. They cannot coexist. One will always silence the other. If doubt is the voice of your past, then faith is the whisper of your future, and to embrace one you must release the grip of the other. Many people are waiting for proof before they believe, but proof is a result of belief, not a prerequisite for it. The person who lets go of doubt first doesn't wait for their life to change, they become the change. They step forward even when the road is foggy. They speak their vision even when no one else understands it. They build when there's nothing but raw ground beneath them. And because they dared to trust, life begins to trust them back. It opens doors, it sends signals, it rearranges itself around the certainty they now carry. When you let go of doubt, you create space. Space for peace, space for clarity, space for intuitive guidance that was once drowned out by overthinking. You stop needing to know every step. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop checking the clock or comparing timelines. You begin to live from an internal compass, not an external calendar. And it's in that shift that you find freedom. Because doubt was never keeping you safe. It was keeping you stuck. This is not something you have to force. You don't have to wrestle doubt to the ground. You only have to stop feeding it. Stop entertaining thoughts that shrink you. Stop giving attention to voices that question your worth. Stop rehearsing the worst-case scenario. Begin to notice the spaces in between your fear, the quiet moments where something greater tries to speak to you. In those moments you'll feel it, a deep knowing that there is more for you, the sense that you were not put here to live in cycles of frustration and confusion, that your spirit was made for more. And in that knowing, doubt begins to dissolve. You will feel the temptation to return to it, especially when things seem still or slow. You'll wonder if you're doing enough, if you're being foolish, if maybe you should go back to playing it safe. But understand this: every time you choose faith over fear, you train your mind to serve your destiny instead of your history. Every time you act from belief,